Hello, I'm Jim Riley, and welcome to Salute the Vets. I have a very special guest today, Congressman Chris Gibson, Congressman from the 19th District.
Yeah, Jim, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you, and I just want to say that how much I appreciate the fact that you guys have this program, Salute the Vets. As I move all about the 165 towns in the 19th Congressional District, I hear from vets. I work very hard. We're going to talk about some of these initiatives. Our team works very hard for veterans, but I appreciate you having this venue so that you can regularly bring on veterans so that we can have them tell their story. Thank you for that. Thank you.
I appreciate the kind words. And of course, James Reynolds, the president of Mid-Hudson Cablevision, has been very, very dynamic in leading this effort. I think it's a very, very good idea. I agree with you. Now, what we're going to do is, even though you are a congressman and there are things that we need to talk about, we're going to start the program with your military experience. I think Salute the Vets demands that we do that, and I know you don't like to run around saying that you had these experiences because it's duty and it's something you believe in very strongly. But give us a little overview of your experience in the military, Chris.
Well, first of all, I started as a private. I enlisted the day after my 17th birthday. I was still a junior at Ichabod Crane. And joined the Army National Guard as a private. And over the next several years, I rose throughout the enlisted ranks, and then in the ROTC program at Siena College, I made the transition from enlisted man to officer. I went in the regular Army, so 5 years in the National Guard before I ever started.
Right.
Roughly 5 years, almost 5 years, and before I went in the regular Army. And when I went in the regular Army, loved this country, was inspired to serve it, but thought I would only serve 3 years.
Right.
And then come back home here to Columbia County and move on with my life. But, throughout my time, I found that I was serving with people who loved our country, who loved each other, and I ended up staying. 3 years became 24 years.
Right.
I rose to the rank of colonel. My last assignment, I was commanding the 2nd Brigade of the 82nd Airborne Division, a great privilege and honor. You know what, though? I never forgot what it was like to be a private. The experiences I went through, the difficulty, the challenge was good for me. It really helped build character, and it also impacted my view, my philosophy on command.
Right, yeah.
And whether it be on missions, whether it be on human development, whether it be on discipline, I always kept that front and center, my own experiences as a private. And I would tell you that I actually bring that philosophy with me to the United States Congress because, I want to see us grow this economy so every American gets a shot at the American dream. And as we grow the economy, I want to make sure that we take good care of workers. Right. We don't want to just see the grow this economy so that shareholders are the only ones that benefit. We want to see everyone get a shot at the American dream and everyone see a flourishing form of life. And so that experience is really deeply rooted in my military experiences.
I think that's true. And I think that's really a positive balance between being an enlisted man and then being responsible as an officer, because it gives you context for life. And I think that's terribly important. Military does that very well.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And it truly was a wonderful run in the United States military. I mean, candidly, the last decade was very challenging. We were at war, and so like everyone else, I was rotating from stateside overseas into the combat zone and back. But we stuck together. These are units that I'm enormously proud of. In the multiple combat tours that I had, the first one was when I was a young man with the 82nd Airborne Division during Desert Shield and Desert Storm, but then 3 subsequent combat tours to Iraq after 9/11, 2 of which I led paratroopers as a battalion commander.
Right.
The 2nd Battalion of the 325, that's the 2nd Brigade of the 82nd, in the 2nd Brigade of the 82nd. And then during the surge, I was the G3, or the operations officer for the 25th Infantry Division, Tropic Lightning, when we were multinational division north, basically everything north of Baghdad in Iraq. And I think about those experiences and reflect on the heroism of our troopers. I never forget. In fact, I wear this every day. I never forget about the sacrifices
Right.
of our troopers, those that I lost in combat, those that were grievously wounded. We pray for their souls, we remember their families, and we continue to work every day to honor those sacrifices and to do everything we can for our Gold Star families and for those troopers coming back from wounds, not only physical wounds, but for those troopers who miraculously may not have been physically hurt, but
Right.
carry emotional scars. We need to be there for them all the way and to support them. I just want to give you one illustration. One of my troopers that I lost, Chris Pusateri, young man. He was actually from upstate New York. He's actually from the Elmira area. And, you know, this guy was your typical, I mean, he was an outdoorsman. He was fun-loving. And, you know, we were serving together in the 2nd Battalion of the 325 in the fall of 2004. And one day after training, Chris had come up to me and he said, you know, sir, I understand you served at Fort Drum in upstate New York at one point. Yes, I did. And he goes, well, I'm thinking about re-enlisting with the option to go to Fort Drum so I can hunt with my high school buddies on weekends, make it home. It's only a couple hours, you know, not even quite a couple-hour drive back from Fort Drum. And I was just wondering what kind of experience you had at Fort Drum. I had a great experience at Fort Drum. That's in Watertown, New York,
Right.
in the North Country. And I shared with him, you know, just how fantastic that was. He re-enlisted to go to Fort Drum. His report date was in the late winter of '05. Right around Thanksgiving of '04, after he had re-enlisted, we were called up to go to Iraq, unexpectedly, but to reinforce our forces there before the first election that was due to take place 30 January of 2005.
Right.
So we were in the throes of going through a no-notice alert to deploy, to go to Iraq. So we're outloading, we're planning, we're going through our paperwork, we're notifying our families that we're getting ready to go, and the Sergeant Major comes in. And he says, Chris Pusateri has notified the chain of command, his sergeants and his lieutenants and captain, that he wanted to delay his report date to Fort Drum because he couldn't live with the idea that all his buddies, his closest friends here in the 82nd, that they would go off to war and that he wouldn't be with them. And he felt like he needed to do his part. Seemed like a very reasonable request given how committed he was to our country, to our unit, to our mission. And so we said, okay, we'll contact the headquarters Department of the Army. We'll get his report date moved so that he could go with us for this tour and then go to Fort Drum thereafter. So Chris deployed with us. And I just want to tell you what an incredible young man this guy was. He was there for his troopers every day, including his last day.
Yeah.
And this was the 16th of February of 2005. We were battling a very pernicious cell that had Al-Qaeda influence. It was some homegrown insurgents as well. But we were in near daily contact with this enemy cell. IEDs, RPGs, RPK, AK-47. Well, we were in the process of looking to ambush this group when a big gunfight opened up. Now this gunfight was in the morning. Chris had been on guard all night long. So at the moment this gunfight started, he was actually in a sleeping bag, getting rest. Now we were outfitted and manned enough to conduct this gunfight, and Chris could have stayed resting, and then we would have still been fine. But when the gunfight broke out, he came out of his sleeping bag, having really just gone off duty about an hour or so earlier, got all his gear on, went to help his buddy, and in the crossfire, we had the enemy landed a shot, hit the butt of his weapon, and came up into his chin, the fragments, and went to the back of his brain. And we did everything we could to save Chris, and he expired. He died. He died of wounds. And this, how selfless Chris was. He was widely and universally admired and respected. You know, Chris was born on the 4th of July of 1983, and born on the 4th of July, and that was fitting because this young man was red, white, and blue to the core.
All the way.
All the way, airborne, and I will never forget his sacrifices And, to me, every day I rise, I say to myself, I'm going to rise to my God-given potential. I'm going to give everything I have today to honor the sacrifices. I think, we often throw this phrase around, we're going to honor the sacrifices. I think the way that we honor the sacrifices is by living to our God-given potential and giving our very best every day to serve others.
Right.
And I do that in inspiration to Chris. We pray for his soul. We remember his family. And I want to tell you that these are the experiences and the memories that I have from my time in Iraq.
It's amazing when you look at the true heroism that people possess. And I think you're right. If we're going to honor them, we honor them by living heroic lives ourselves. Yeah. And there's no better way to do that than through service. I think it's true. If you don't mind, though, I'm just going to review some things here, because as I looked at your bio, and I know, again, it's not something you want to stress, but I just want to share your experiences and some of the things that you were recognized for. Chris earned 2 Legions of Merit, 4 Bronze Stars, the Purple Heart, Combat Infantryman's Badge with a star, Master Parachutist Badge, and Ranger Tab. And you were honored and recognized throughout. But I think it has to do with commitment, doesn't it? Isn't that what we're really talking about?
It is commitment. It's a commitment to our country. It's a commitment to our ideals, our freedoms. I believe with every fiber in my body to protect this cherished way of life. I continue that now in the Congress in supporting my very strong stance on the Bill of Rights. That's something that brings us all together. Regardless of what party you're in, standing behind the Bill of Rights, the idea that we can live free, that we can be a self-governing people. Second Amendment has made the news a lot lately. I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I'm a strong supporter of the First Amendment as well, and the Fourth Amendment, and the Fifth, and the Sixth, the entire Bill of Rights. And it's because this great experiment, which it was called at the outset,
right,
has worked out. The idea we can be a republic, we can be a self-governing republic, those are ideals worth fighting for. And I think it's important to distinguish between that and what I see too often these days is too much military intervention on behalf of our country overseas. I believe with everything who I am in protecting this cherished way of life, but I don't want to see us be the world's policeman. I do not think it's in our best interests to militarily attack Syria. I don't think it'll make matters better there. In fact, I'm concerned it's going to make it worse. It'll Americanize that civil war. It will escalate the conflict. It could potentially spill out throughout the region. For that reason, I will be voting no on the authorization to use military force. I'm deeply saddened by the loss of life in Syria, but I think the best way we can make a difference, the best way that we can help bring about peace in Syria is to stay on the diplomatic track, using economic leverage. We have the world's largest economy, bringing the warring factions together, working with the stakeholders in the region and other countries around the world who are interested in making a difference and ramping up the pressure diplomatically and economically to get a mediated settlement. That is our best course of action, not military intervention.
I don't know what to react with that with, except it sounds very, very thoughtful, insightful. I'm in complete agreement, but I don't want to act like I know the wisdom and the experience that you've had, but it sounds like a very, very intelligent, well thought out strategy and approach, and I appreciate hearing that from you.
Well, no, thank you, Jim, and let me just, I'd like to expand upon, if you don't mind, a little bit about what we're doing for veterans now.
Yeah.
This is something, obviously, I'm very passionate about.
Hold on, I'm going to interrupt you just a second, because I want to keep these things separate. I really thought that was important to have your background and those experiences and your thoughts. We're going to be back after a few messages, and then we're going to move into the second segment of this interview. We'll be right back.
I remember the moment clearly.
I'll never forget that moment.
As long as I live.
I realized at that moment, when we first saw the damage, these people really needed us. And I was going to make a difference, right here in my community. Together with local responders, we cleared trees and collapsed walls. We had to get to the family trap beneath. As a citizen soldier, I made a difference.
Be there for your community at NationalGuard.com.
welcome back. Again, we're doing Salute the Vets, and we have with us Congressman Chris Gibson from the 19th Congressional District. Again, we appreciate you being with us here today.
I'm honored to be so, and I thank you
Well,
for doing this segment, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you.
Yeah, no, it's good, because what we'll do is we'll get you back on one of the other shows too. They're talking about Meet the Chef. We might even go up Kinderhook, find a restaurant and have
SpaghettiOs?
somebody.
Is that what we're
Yeah,
doing?
we could do something
Maybe toast? I don't know.
sophisticated like that. We were talking before we went on the air that you enjoyed the show with
Sergeant Flaherty.
Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to use Chris for that. Gary Flaherty, Columbia County Veteran Services. And so I thought it'd be kind of nice if you talked from your perspective about veteran services, your concerns, what you're doing to kind of help that process.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just say that I think Sergeant Major Flaherty is a great American hero. He proved that in his time in uniform, and he continues to do that every day and giving everything he has to help veterans. I'm proud to say he's a volunteer on our team, and in that capacity, he helps our efforts across the 11 counties, the 165 towns, how we make a difference. And we're working closely together on a couple of cases right now to help veterans in need. And that's part of what we're doing here. Is we have we meet about quarterly or so, and we have volunteers from across the 19th Congressional District. We bring the VSOs, as you mentioned, the Veteran Service Officers together. We often have members from the state as well that come in, and we review status. We talk about various legislative initiatives. We talk about some of the executive programs, and we troubleshoot problems, and we look to continue to improve. And the work we're doing in our offices right now supports our Veteran Service Officers. So, our Veteran Service Officers will often facilitate and help veterans make claims with the Veterans Administration, with the VA hospital, through the housing program they have, recognition, any number of things. The VSOs work those issues. When they need more emphasis and help in troubleshooting, they'll come to us. We've got a good relationship with the VSOs. We help put priority on cases, help expedite, put focus on cases, and we've had considerable success to date advocating for our veterans. We want to continue to do that and do better. That can be any number of things. Some specific challenges with open cases to the VA and getting answers and demanding accountability, cutting on the backlog. It could be just getting the recognition that are due our veterans who didn't get their medals.
Yeah, we're kind of fortunate to have you in this seat, because having been a lifelong career Army man, it's never far from your mind, is it?
I've seen it from every angle now, from enlisted man, from officer to commander to somebody who retired and seen that whole process, somebody who now visits the VA, and somebody who's in the Congress responsible for policy and looking to supervise the implementation of policy.
Right.
So we have this casework that we do. If anyone needs help, I'd ask them to reach out to our offices. Within the viewership here, we have an office in Kinderhook, right there in the village, and folks can reach out to us there. And beyond our casework, I would also tell you that we're working extensively on legislation to make things better. I mentioned the backlog. Let me just say I have a bill that will expedite the way the DOD handles cases for our Vietnam veterans, in particular our Blue Water Navy veterans.
Right.
This situation, I think, is wrong. We have a situation where, if you served on the ground in Vietnam or you were in the Riverine Navy, you get automatic qualification for coverage for Agent Orange exposure.
Right.
But if you served just offshore, when we had a whole number of ships that were just offshore supporting logistically in many capacities, they are not qualified for presumed coverage for Agent Orange, despite the fact that a good number of these operations where they used Agent Orange was to defoliate right next to the shore to protect the logistical operation, and the fact that in a good number of these cases, the ships would get their potable water from a rope hew from using the reverse osmosis process, desalinization right there on the boat. It made the Agent Orange 10 times more potent.
Right.
So 60% of these veterans are already gone. They're in heaven.
Right.
And the fact that they don't have presumed coverage is wrong. I have a bill that changes that would give them presumed coverage. I have a second bill that because the fact that they don't have presumed coverage, we fight for them on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
We refuse to accept that they're not going to get the coverage that they deserve. So, but we have to take it, you know, like for Jim, if it's you, we're going to open up a case for Riley, and we're advocating with the VA to get you that presumed coverage that you have coming to you. Well, part of the challenge of fighting it case by case is the fact that the Navy is, sadly at this moment, not organized.
Right.
So, you know, we have this major backlog that we're trying to fight our way through. It's exacerbated by the fact that the Navy already knows the ships that were just offshore, but yet they haven't cataloged that in a way
Right.
that if I bring your case forward, that they would be able to quickly move through information, see that you were in the USS, take your pick, that you were just offshore, and that we could get right to the
Right.
crux of the matter. So I have two bills on this. One that gets at the backlog by requiring the ship count and categorization so that if I have to bring a case by case up, I can get them done in half the time.
Got the information.
Got the information because it's accessible now, but we wait until I come and bring your case before they start sorting through that. There's no reason for that.
Right.
That's number one. The second bill actually changes the underlying law to give those that were just offshore supporting this presumed coverage. We're working those. They're high priority bills for us in the Congress. On the ship count bill, we've actually got it through committees. We've been through the subcommittee.
Wonderful.
We've been through the Veterans Committee. We expect a vote on the floor of the House. It looks like it's going to get tied in with several other bills so that this bill on ship count that will cut at the backlog, I think we'll get it through the House this year.
That's
and then we'll work
wonderful.
with our colleagues in the Senate. I'm hopeful that we'll actually get that enacted and the President will sign this Congress. We'll continue to work the underlying bill as well. I would also tell you that I'm involved in this group called No Labels. No Labels is an effort. It's a bipartisan effort. It's actually bicameral as well. So you have Republicans and Democrats in the House, Republicans and Democrats in the Senate. There's 80 of us out of 535, and we are working to try to bring more functionality to the Congress.
Right.
That just like when you serve in the military, you're focused on mission,
Right.
mission accomplishment. We're looking to bring more of a mission focus. One of the 9 bills that we just introduced, our No Labels group. I'm a co-chair. I'm a leader in
Right.
this group on the House side. One of the 9 bills is a bill I authored along with a couple of doctors, Democrats from California, that changes the way that we deal with the healthcare system and records for our veterans. You know, it's widely known, I would think, for the viewers that, you know, we have this issue that when you leave the Department of Defense and go to the VA, we don't have enough synchronicity in that movement. It should be seamless. And so our bill would require that the health care systems between the DOD and the VA be merged. And that record, so the minute, like when I was 17, when I raised my right hand, that same record would go with me from the time I raise my right hand to the time I go to the grave, that I would have one record.
Right.
And what happens now is you leave the service and then you basically had to start over again with the VA.
Right.
Well, how can we can't accept that. So, you know, like I said, I'm the author of this bill. We are working on that. We had similar language that was put in the National Defense Bill. So I'm hopeful that this effort will also become law this Congress. So I think that's vitally important. I also think it's important to work together.
Yeah.
That look,
I like that idea.
if there's 20 different issues, you know, and you know, you and I may be from hypothetically from different parties. If there's 20 different issues and we disagree on 12, we ought to be working together on the 8 issues
Right, you're
we
not
agree
going to
with.
agree on everything,
Yeah.
but you certainly ought to find the ones that you
Common
agree on
ground and
move
get that
it.
done. And
But
so-
again, that whole notion of mission
Yeah.
and mission
Yeah.
and process together. I will tell you that, again, I'm very much heartened by this, being a veteran myself. And I should add that I benefited greatly from the GI Bill because I was able to go to college and it changed my life and my career. I'm here today because of that. So what you're doing is critically important. I know
Yeah.
you know that, but I think the folks out there need to know that this commitment to veteran services and veteran affairs is
That's right.
terribly important.
Well, you're absolutely right, and we have a very good GI Bill right now. For our veterans coming home, you're looking at coverage for the most expensive state-run school is covered, along with housing allowance up to essentially the rank of sergeant. You get the equivalent of a allowance as if
Right.
you were still a sergeant, and you get allowance for books. So, and the thing of it is, even schools that may not be state schools, there's a whole long list of schools that are what's called yellow ribbon participants. So even though they're not a state school, they won't charge the veteran any,
Right.
because they'll take as if they were a state school,
They honor
and then
it,
anything
yes.
they honor it, and
Yeah.
anything beyond, the college actually waives. So
fabulous.
there's that. And then, for returning veterans, and I'm glad I have a chance to say this on the air because I'm still finding veterans who don't realize this. Any veteran who comes home that has served for us overseas, they automatically are eligible for 5 years of coverage from the Veterans Administration Hospital.
Right.
So now they may very well stay on that depending on their medical circumstances or their economic situation, but for the first 5 years from they come home, they have that coverage from the VA. And I'll just tell you, look, the VA is not perfect. It keeps getting better, and it needs to keep getting better. And I've noticed since the time that I was a young lad till now, there's been significant progress. We thank the VA for that. We know that there's more to do. Let's keep working on that together. And then also in the last Congress, I was as a co-sponsor, and I'm proud to say we enacted important legislation that helps our veterans, particularly those who are out of work. For unemployed veterans ages 35 to 60, we created another program to help them get back to work. And essentially this was called the VOW Act, but what it does is it provides for up to 1 year of training for a new skill of any kind. And by the way, this training can be done at a community college, it can be done at Questar BOCES, it can be done at, say, like a Stratton or
Right,
a
business.
Mildred Ellie.
Yeah.
And so the tuition is paid in that time for a year, and there's a stipend for the veteran. And third portion of this is that it links up that individual with an employer about halfway through the program for like apprenticeship /
Right.
internship. So this program is making a difference. So between the education, between the healthcare, and also the job employment assistance, these are important programs that I need to continue to get the word out, along with our casework that we're doing to make a difference.
Terribly important.
Very important.
I want to thank you,
Thank you, Jim. Good to be with you.
Colonel Gibson,
Yeah.
United States Army. Again, so absolutely, I just feel honored to be in your presence and to thank you for your service to the nation, but also to see what you're doing through your position as Congressman for the 19th District and serving veterans out there. We're very, very grateful.
Jim, thank you. We're here to serve everyone, regardless of party, whether you be a Republican, Democrat, or independent. We want to serve the people that we work for, and we especially want to make sure our veterans get all those benefits that they've earned, the recognition that's due to come their way. So let's do it together. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We want to thank you for joining us on Salute the Vets. We look forward to seeing you again next time.
Welcome to Smart Home from Mid-Hudson Cable, a monitoring solution that brings the power of video to protect your family and home. Using cameras installed by Mid-Hudson Cable technicians, you can check in on your pets, be notified when your children get home, or look in on the nanny. For businesses, a visible camera can reduce crime and help employees and customers feel safer at night. Call today to learn how Smart Home can help you.